for tuning in to the Wingspace podcast. This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Welcome to the Wingspace podcast, episode number 9. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you what tears are, the importance of our tears, and why we cry. Sit back and take a listen, so maybe the next time you tear up, you'll give yourself a little bit of grace and allow those tears to flow.
Are you a local of Southern Maryland and interested in making wellness a priority? Join us for a wellness workshop at Hope and Healing in Leonardtown, Maryland. Connect with like-minded locals and learn to make your very own aromatherapy products. But that's not all you'll take with you. We'll send you home with new tools and tricks to promote wellness in your daily life and a wonderful wellness community to call your own. Sign up with the link in our show notes or the link in our bio on Instagram at Hope Healing Therapy Wellness.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Wingspace podcast, a place to take up space. Today's episode is entitled, It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to. I'm recording this episode during the month of September 2023, which, as you may know, if you've been following along, is our 5th anniversary. So we're celebrating and it's a party, so why not have a funny name to go with our episode for today. I spend a lot of time with clients who are survivors of trauma, and we talk about the importance of expressing emotion, about identifying emotion and expressing emotion. And I hear pretty often from people, I don't want to cry, I don't know why I cry so much, and just kind of some really negative connotations around crying. So I thought today I would just kind of dive in to a little bit of the science behind why we have tears, the importance of tears, but also a little bit more into the emotional side and really the importance of crying in emotional times. So some of this sciencey information that I'm going to give to you today comes from WebMD, and you could do a similar search and just kind of search, why do we cry? Lots and lots of articles with the same information. So it's interesting because some people cry a lot. Some people cry over commercials and sad movies and, a good story on the news, those heartfelt stories. Some people are laughing criers. They just start crying whenever they have that really deep, hard laugh. Some people never cry, and some people are kind of right there in the middle. But I think that it's important to understand that crying serves our body a purpose. So there's 3 types of tears. We have basal tears, and those are the tears that are just in our eyes all day long. They coat our eyes, they protect our eyes, they kind of get debris out of our eyes. It's what helps with the health of our eyes and the surface of our eyes. It keeps our eyes hydrated, and for some people who might suffer with dry eye, they have low basal tears, so their eyes don't have the moisture that they're supposed to have. These tears serve a couple of purposes. One is that they have water so that they can moisturize the eyes. They also have some mucus in there so that they can spread the tear, the water across the surface of the eye. And then there's oils in there to help lubricate the eyes. And it also helps, interestingly enough, to prevent the tear from evaporating from our eye so quickly. So it's really important that our tear ducts work properly in order to keep our eyes healthy. And the second kind of tears that we have are irritant tears or reflux tears. These are the tears that come when we get something in our eye and, all of a sudden our eye is just watering, or when we're cutting onions and we're just tearing up and we don't know why. It's because there is a gas in the air, there's smoke in the air, there's some kind of a debris that's gotten into our eye, and it's our eye's way of washing that irritant out. And we don't have any control over that. There's some old, wives' tales about things you can do with regards to chopping onions. Certainly wearing safety glasses and things like that can help, but really our body automatically creates those tears to protect our eyes. So we have those basal tears that are just kind of every day happening to keep our eyes safe. And then we have the reflex tears that come as a result of needing to intervene. And then the third kind of tears are the emotional tears, which we're really going to look at a little bit more in depth today. And emotional tears come as a result of strong emotion. It can be empathy. We cry because we see someone else crying. It could be physical pain. It could be grief. It could be loss. There's lots of reasons in terms of emotional situations that could cause someone to cry. The reasons why we cry are really interesting when it comes to emotional tears. There's some research that talks about emotional tears being a way to signal distress, so that it's a way of communicating, a nonverbal way of communicating to those around us that there's something wrong. It allows us to connect to other people during times of emotional distress. So it may be you're at a funeral, or you're with someone who is experiencing some emotional pain, and it's not necessarily your loss, or it's not necessarily your emotional pain, but you find yourself crying, and we don't understand why. So it's that connection with other people. As we signal distress and as we connect with others, we potentially get our needs met. And it allows us to physically express the emotion. So you might be asking, like, what the heck does all of this mean? It's really interesting to me, and probably not surprising, that our bodies work certain ways because that's how it was intended to be. So in the same way that our body produces these tears in order to be able to keep our eyes healthy, so the lacrimal gland, if I'm saying that correctly, produces these tears. And then when there's an irritant, it produces the tears. So imagine an emotional, a social, a well-being kind of irritant. The tear duct, the glands, the tear duct excretes the tears that the glands have created. Emotional tears are different from the basal and the reflex tears in that they contain more stress hormone than the other tears. And they also contain natural pain relievers, endorphins and oxytocin. Because the emotional pain or physical pain, you stub your toe and you start crying, and it hurts, and that physical pain is what's causing the tears. The therapeutic, the healing nature of our tears is because it's containing cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So as we experience stress, that cortisol level goes up. And as we cry, our body expresses some of that cortisol, which allows our internal cortisol to go down, right? So it's expressing that stress. The crying releases some natural painkillers. It's the therapeutic nature of a good cry. If you've ever had a really good cry and you feel so good after you've had that really good cry, your eyes might be super swollen, your face might be red, but realistically, you feel good. And it's because that emotional cry tends to release some stress, and it increases your endorphins, and it expresses that oxytocin. It's also believed that emotional tears contain additional proteins and hormones that the other tears do not contain, that helps with this idea of relaxing and lowering stress, cortisol levels, and lowering pain, so a pain relief. This means that when we cry, we are helping our body to regulate itself, kind of release some of the stress, and then return to a normal, steady state. I say all this to say that it's normal and it's natural, and it's kind of our body's way of releasing and caring for our body. We gotta cry. Now, we know that some people cry more often than others, and typically women cry more often than men. Scientifically, it's because men have smaller tear ducts, and they also have more testosterone, which inhibits crying. They also have less prolactin, which is a hormone that promotes tears. It's a hormone that is involved with a woman's reproductive system. And men are often not encouraged to cry. So our bodies kind of have this behavior modification system that we don't cry. The reason why we cry in an emotional situation is because our limbic system, so if you want to imagine early science class, our brain, that reptilian brain, that center portion of our brain, that includes the amygdala, which is our fight, flight, freeze, the alarm system of our body. When we begin to experience stress, emotional stress, physical pain, the amygdala sends a message to the lacrimal gland, which is the gland that produces tears, kind of saying, hey, there's a problem, there's a stressor, you got to send out the tears. And that can be a learned process. That can also be a system or a process that is suppressed because of the situations around us and the environment in which we live. So what I say to my clients in less than 10 minutes is that when we cry, our body releases proteins, it releases hormones, it releases the stuff that our body doesn't need, number one, because we don't need that extra cortisol, but it also allows us to return to a steady state, return to that normal kind of better feeling place than that high emotional state. This means that we have to cry. It means that sometimes we cry more, sometimes we cry less, but it's our body's way of reacting in the same way that our heart pumps a little bit faster when we're out for a jog, or why our body temperature naturally changes as a result of the environment around us. It's a natural system that we don't have any control over. So I would encourage you today to think about this the next time you get that lump in your throat or that little knot in your chest or those butterflies in your stomach and you feel like you're going to cry. It's your body's way of saying, hey, we've got some stuff in here that we need to get out. And so allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to get that out. And if you feel that lump in your throat or that sensation that you need to cry, if you're going through an emotional or stressful situation and you want to cry but you can't cry, maybe you think to a movie that you've watched before that always makes you cry. I was talking to somebody the other day and we talked about watching the movie The Notebook, right? It's one of those movies that just kind of gets you every time. So maybe you just need to watch a sad movie and let those tears start going. For me, I can listen to certain music and certain songs and it gets me crying, and then it kind of kickstarts that process so that then I can just express those emotions in times when I feel like it's just not coming out. So the title of our podcast, It's My Party and I Can Cry If I Want to. The reality is, not only can we cry if we want to, but our bodies require us to do it, to keep our eyes healthy and safe, as well as to keep us emotionally healthy and safe. I hope that you'll think about this the next time that you're struggling with the fact that you don't want to cry, or if somebody tells you not to cry, because it's something we have to do. Let me know your thoughts. Connect with us on socials. Feel free to send me an email, Jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com, and I hope you have a great day.